One of my friends got stabbed in the heart with a screwdriver in front of me and died and stuff. But what happened is the gang had a leadership, we used to call the carnales, like the big guys, the shot callers, the OGs, and I was a part of that, right? So there was the mom, again, coming from Pakistan, wanted me to wear a suit and a bow tie to look nice because, their idea is very different, So I walked into school with like a suit on with a bow tie and I was like, hello, my name is Uthman, how are you? And they beat me up that day. I got jumped 3 times the first day. Same day, big black eye, ripped shirt, bow tie gone, all that, came home. And my parents were divorced, it was a very secular household. We weren't religiously inclined. When I was around 10, I knew the gang. They would know me. I used to fight a lot because, again, people would make fun. Our students have screws loose in their head to begin with, so it would just end up being a fight. When I was 12, I had an Irani friend. He was not Muslim. I didn't have any Muslim friends growing up, so his family was from Iran. They were Shia, but they became Christian to get a visa to the US during the revolution there. So his family were all Christians. But he was Irani and I was Pakistani, so in school we're the only 2 semi-Middle Eastern guys. So I used to hang out with him, but he liked to start fights. So he picked a fight with these guys from a gang called Lomas 27th Street. It's a Latino gang. And they started beating him up and I saw him, I jumped in. And I started fighting and he ran away. And 3 guys beat me up though. When I went home, I was pretty bashed up, they were older guys. So my mother called my father. He didn't live with us, so he came. And I remember it very clearly. So he pulled up, he had this old Camaro, at that time it was new. And he pulled me in a room by myself and he told me, I only have 2 questions. Did you run? I said no. He said, did you cry? I said no. I said, okay, we're good then. So he grabbed a baseball bat and got in the car and said, let's go find them. So we drove around and the gangs have particular areas where they post up. This is they have to represent the hood. So I knew where they would be. We went there, we saw them. I told my father, that's them. We both jumped out. He took a bat. He hit one guy in the head. My father cracked one's shoulder, shattered his shoulder. And the other guy, he cracked his head. And again, my father was, was a tough guy, so they ran. The problem got to be is then my father drove off and went to his house and I had to go to school the next day. So I very clearly remember going to school the next day. And I remember just walking down the hallway and people going, hey, there's that dead kid, the one that's going to get killed today. Oh. Lomas 27th Street was about 500 strong. I was by myself, 12-year-old kid. And we had just cracked one guy's head and broke that guy's shoulder. So basically they were going to wait till school's over and they were going to roll up from the high school because this is elementary school. But they would come from the high school to mess with us.
Older guys.
Older guys, yeah. And it was going to be my death that day. So another gang called Eastside San Diego, also Sureños, they approached me. They said, look, we've seen you around. You can fight. You stand your ground. If you don't want to die, join us. And Eastside was about a 600 people strong gang. And they didn't like Lomas Street to begin with. So they were like, you join us, we'll protect you. So that's how I, at 12 years of age, got into gangs. So basically, when I got involved in gangs, it wasn't like robberies and little things. It was a lot of bigger stuff. We used to work with the cartels. San Diego was the last city before Tijuana.
Border, yeah.
So all the drugs that come into the US, they go. And Tijuana, Mexico is the most dangerous city in the world. If you Google the highest murder rate in the world, in 1 year they had 2,800 murders just in that city. We had people who would go and sell drugs on the streets. I wasn't one of them. I was part of the more people that planned things. So we used to go down to Tijuana, meet with the cartel guys. We would facilitate bringing the drugs in. We would take guns from the US to them and they would pay us in drugs and then we would then sell those on the streets. We did like robberies. We also did hits for them, right? So if they wanted somebody killed in the US, they wouldn't send a guy from TJ. They would just tell one of us like, hey, here's a guy, here's money. So the first friend I saw get killed, I was 14. But it's one of the things that still kind of haunts me sometimes because he got shot, right, in the head. And as you know, what you see in the movies of how people get shot is not reality, right? It's not like a little hole and then the Indian movies, like the blood's dripping, the guy's still running. He got shot, he had a bullet hole and then the back of his head was gone, but he was still it wasn't like he wasn't gone, he was still breathing. And I remember holding him and the worst thing is you kind of had to, you were like, it's going to be okay. But you look at him and it's not. Back of his head's gone. The exit hole's definitely bigger and worse. And he died. I was holding him and he died. And I was 14 and we buried him. That was the first of many, and then we would shoot them, they would shoot us. A lot of my friends got killed. One of my friends got stabbed in the heart with a screwdriver in front of me and died and stuff. But what happened is the gang had a leadership, we used to call the carnales, like the big guys, the shot callers, the OGs, and I was a part of that, right? So there'd be 13, members. Those would be the leadership council. And we had a rule, blood in, blood out. You can understand what blood in means, but bled out means you get killed to leave, meaning you never leave, right? Yeah. So one of the guys that was also on that council, he was a very good friend of mine, grew up with him since I was young. I mean, since basically I got to the US. He was 2 years older than me. And he was very, again, like I know they're gang members and it's kind of a strange thing to say, but he was a really nice guy. You know what I mean? Like he kind of looked out for me like an older brother, right? My father didn't live with us. I didn't have any older siblings. I was the only child. So, even in school or out, he was somebody that was very close to me. And what would happen is we would set up these hits back and forth. So let's say you're a leader in another gang and you did something to somebody in our gang. Now we want to hit you. Well, we can't really just walk up in your hood because you're going to be protected. So we would make these plans, right? Like, okay, where's he going to be? So this girl came up to me at a party and she gave me a number and, she wanted to meet up. And at that time, when you were in that kind of situation, you would get a lot of attention, not just because of your looks or something, but because you could facilitate a lot of things for a lot of people. I had another girl that contacted me about, my mom was very strict, right? So if I wanted to go do stuff, what would I do? Is I would go stay at my friend's house and his parents would tell my mother, yeah, they're going to be in bed by 9, but we do whatever. So Saturday night I was spending the night at that same friend's house, and he used to have a garage where we used to sell drugs and have guns and stuff, and then he had an inner house which nobody was allowed in, because that's where his grandmother and parents and all lived. But with me, he was that close that I would stay inside the house, and I would speak to his family and all that. So Saturday night I was staying at his house and I told him, hey, I got these two at the same time, I don't know what to do. So he's like, well, give me one, I'll take one, you take the other. I said, all right. I gave him one number and I took the other, and what happened is he called and basically she said, meet me at this payphone and call me and I'll come out and get you. So he went, and when he got to the payphone, he rang the number. Instead of her coming out, a bunch of guys came out and they shot him. It was a setup. But the setup was for me. Qadar Allah. So, months they had planned this out, when I met her, and then she kept in touch with me, but she was working for them. So all that, was just a setup. No, I didn't know. I was out and the next morning got a call and they said, he's dead. What? What do you mean he's dead? He was doing this last night. He's like, no, it was a setup. And it hit me hard. I felt guilty. It was a different feeling because
he's a close friend as well.
Very close. Very good guy. He was always protective over me, and it was meant to be me. So I went to his funeral. First I saw him, and he had been shot 9 times. So the bullets were, I don't know how many bullets they shot. It was multiple shooters and stuff, but it was a 357 bullet that went through his head. So the back of the head was gone, and front had holes, and shoulder, hand, chest, body was all holed up. And somebody since you're a young kid. Like I said, I'd seen other people die, but this was a very close friend, and it was supposed to have been me. So I was just imagining myself there. So we had a lot of money, like we used to bring drugs. We couldn't put it in a bank. We couldn't buy property. We couldn't invest. So what we'd do is we'd buy cars and put expensive rims on them. And so we had a really nice 64 Impala with rims and hydraulics and paint job and custom seats and all that. And I was 18 at the time. So it's not like, it wasn't really mine. It was ours together from the money that we all got from the drug trade and stuff. And he used to take care of that car. Like he was really into cars. I wasn't really a car guy. But he was really he would wash it and clean it and all that stuff. And I saw his brothers were driving the car, and he had 13 girlfriends, not girls that he slept with, who knows, but 13 that were like his girlfriends, like that they all knew about each other and all that, And each one of them was at the funeral, but crying on some other guy's shoulder. I watched this. I watched those girls go home with another guy. I went to his house. I was very close to his family, and obviously his mother was having a panic attack, and his grandmother was crying. But his brothers were already fighting over his things. And at that time we had these jackets called Ben Davis. They were heavy jackets, and they were like expensive. For us, they were expensive, So his brothers were already fighting over that. And he used to store his money at home. I knew where he kept it. We were all trust. It was gone. Like his brothers already taken it, And I just started thinking, what's life about? Money was something important to us, but he didn't take any of it. Girls, no girl went into the grave with him. They all walked out with somebody else. Power, we used to have clout. Alhamdulillah, I started to study different religions. Like I realized there's more to life. Then when I left, I basically just stopped hanging out. I started going to the masjid. I started reading Quran. I didn't know how to read Alif Ba Ta. I didn't know how to read Quran. I didn't know how to pray. I knew some basics like I'd seen in my family, but I didn't really know. So I started to go to like a madrasa, even though now I started to get a regular job. I couldn't sell drugs anymore, right? And now I was trying to go to college because I wanted to get my life together. So